Hello, scholars, and welcome to our lesson on the volume of cylinders. This is in transformation in volume, and the goal is that you'll be able to calculate the volume of cylinders. The reason we're doing this is geometry quite literally helps to shape the world around us. Being able to understand and use the methods to move and change shapes, or in this case, help measure shapes, is incredibly important to understand how the world around us works. Let's begin. First, with a warm-up pop-up. You've been working pretty hard on a Minecraft server you share with your friend, and it's about time you show off. Your friend built a solid diamond block tower shown to the right. How many diamond blocks did they use? You need to know how much more you need to beat them. So let's see, they're building in their first layer. And they did say it was solid. They're not cheating. It's fully solid, no hollow bits. So how many blocks did they use? So you know how many more you need to get. Alrighty, doing a check-in. There's a lot of ways you could think of doing this. First and foremost, you may have chosen just to count a top layer or the bottom layer. They all have the same layer to them, right? Which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. So one layer has 37. Now you could choose to count every single individual block. Or because we know that they have the same layer, you may have chosen to say, well, I have one of those layers. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those layers. So you could just take that amount and multiply by 6. If we take that 37 and we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers, I should have 222 diamond blocks is what they did. If you also put 222, no matter how you found it, then you also found the correct amount of blocks for this whole shape. I'm going to clear this up. But what this was a very blocky version of a cylinder. And we're going to talk about how do we find the volume of cylinders. So, to find the volume of a cylinder, you follow the steps below. We have a cylinder right here. Step 1, identify, which means find out what is the radius and height of the cylinder. Their radius, which remember is halfway through the circle, and the height, as in how tall is the whole shape. Some reminders. Thank you, Oni. Remember, the radius is half of the length of the circle. If you have the diameter, which goes all the way through the circle, then to find the radius, you would just need to cut it in half or divide by 2 to find out what the radius is. Thank you, Oni. Step 2, after we found the radius and the height, is find the area of the circle, which is kind of what we just did in that example warm-up problem. We found the area, how many blocks it took for just one layer. It's been a while since you looked at the area of a circle, but just as a refresher, we do pi times radius squared to find the area of a circle. And that'll give us the first layer. From here, again, similar to that warm-up problem, we'll multiply our answer, that one layer amount, by the height of the cylinder to find the volume. And that should give us the final filled-in amount for that cylinder. So that's how you do it visually, broken up. In the end, we also broken that up into just a formula. So you can use a similar formula, which combines all of those steps together to make it be just one simple expression. And that expression is, once again, we found the area using pi times r to the power 2, or squared, and we multiply that by the height. That's right, puppies. It's a bit easier to just have that simple formula, but it means the same thing we just did visually. Let's actually use that in a problem. It says, looking at the 2 cylinders below, which one could hold more water? So as if in a good volume question, how much can a cylinder hold? Well, step 1, we need to identify the radius and height. And if they give us a diameter, we do need to remember to divide by 2 because we want the radius. So what is in color coding here? For the first cylinder, they already give me the radius. It is 12. So I'm going to say that R is 12 for this cylinder. For the other cylinder, do notice the line goes all the way through the circle. That means that this is the diameter. We do not want the diameter. We want the radius. So I need to take this 4 and I need to divide it by 2. This would be just half the circle or the radius. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that's the radius for my other cylinder. They also give us the heights, which I'll just underline. It's 2 inches for our short cylinder and 12 inches for our tall cylinder. And that is the first step. We need to find out, well, what is the radius and the height? We have those now. Step 2, we need to use a formula. Pi times r squared, or to the power of 2, times the height, or h. Now remember, when we have anything to the power of 2, it means you're multiplying it by itself. Or in this case, it'd be radius times radius. So I'm going to start actually putting that in. We'll do our short cylinder first. So it is pi, and for pi, I would say, they don't tell us to, but normally we approximate it using 3.14. So I'll take note of that. So that means I'm doing 3.14, in this case, pi times radius times the height. As I said, we're going to use 3.14 for pi. And we have the radius. For our shorter cylinder, it is 12. So 12. But again, it's radius times radius. So that's 12 times 12. And then the height was 2. My last step, this is the easy part. I'm just going to put this all into a calculator to get our final answer. So 3.14, let's see, times 12 times 12 times 2, I get 904.32. So that is my first cylinder, 904.32. And this was in inches, so that's inches cubed, or inches to the power of 3. Cubed meaning I can fit 904, a little bit more than that, little cube blocks into this whole cylinder. We now need to see what is the volume of the other cylinder. Same formula though, just different numbers. So we're still doing 3.14 times radius times height. Again, our 3.14 doesn't change, but what will change is our radius and our height. This time the radius was 2, so times 2 times 2. And the height was 12, so times 12. Like before, I'm going to put this in my calculator and see what do I get in the end. 3.14 times 2 times 2 times 12, I get 150.72. And they did want to know which cylinder could hold more water. Well, clearly, our short but very wide cylinder holds the most water. So I'm going to say, I'll put a little star next to it and say this cylinder holds the most. All right, now that we have that all figured out, pause if you need to get your notes in, but I'm going to put this up and head to the you try, meaning it's time to see what you know so far. Pause the video to try this problem on your own and resume when you are ready to check your answer. I will read it though. It says, Pauline needs to buy a fish tank for her new fish and read that her fish needs at least 9,000 cubic centimeters of volume to be healthy and happy. Will this tank work? Alrighty, pause the video if you don't yet have your answer, but I'm going to do an answer check right now. So things you'd want to do right away, which hopefully you did do, is first identify what's the radius, and they do give you the radius. We don't need to do any division. 10 is the radius. And what is the height? Which they give you very clearly right here and say that it is 30 centimeters. If you identified those important pieces of information, you're good so far. From here, if you took the formula, which again is pi times radius to the power 2 or squared times height, which again you could rewrite as 3.14 times radius times height. If you need to set up that formula, you are doing good so far. If you then chose to replace your radius with 10, because that was the radius they gave us, so that's 10 times 10, and the height as 30, so times 30. And if you remember to keep your pi in there as well, your 3.14, then you set up your formula correctly. Lastly, just the calculations. So if you put 3.14 times 10 times 10 times 30 into the calculator, you should have gone in 9,420. That's right, puppies. They didn't just ask for what was the volume, though. They asked you a question. Would this fish tank work knowing the fish needs at least 9,000 cubic centimeters of volume? If you said, well, yes, it can, this is more than enough, then you would have said, yes, this tank works. This tank works just fine for their fish. Pause if you need to make any corrections, but I'm going to clear this up and head to the closing. So we can find the volume of a cylinder by finding out how many cubes fit in just a circle, then multiplying that by how many layers tall the shape is. That's like the visual method for it. We can also just simplify that whole action into the simple formula of pi times radius squared times the height, or pi times radius times the height. Either way, though, it does give you your volume, whether you want to go more for a step-by-step visual method or put it all into the single formula. With that, I will see you in our next lesson, but I'll be closing for now.